So now we are on overcrowding in the backyard and poultry farm causing stress in animals. Okay, so just excuse me for 1 second. Let me just see. I would like to see your in-call messages. Right, there we go. Right. Thank you so much, Max. I appreciate that. Great. Okay, fantastic. So let's go back. There. Okay, fantastic. So overcrowding in the backyard poultry farms causes stress in animals. Now, guys, take a hard look at this picture. How many of you are guilty of what you're seeing right there? I'm going to let it sink in. I'll give it a second. I'm going to let it sink in. How many of you are guilty of what you are seeing right there? I don't need an answer. I do not need an answer. But you know who you are. All right? So we're going to move on to the next slide. Overcrowding, guys. Overcrowding. All right? So the enclosures and housing areas. Example of the poor health due to lack of hygiene and stress. So in the picture before, we saw a coop with about a dozen of chickens in that coop. What happens? They jam up together. Remember what I mentioned earlier? These are animals with feathers. They are going to feel very hot. On top of that, look at this. What is around the coop? At the top, you see there. I see galvanized. When sun hits galvanized, right, what happens? It gets very hot. You have insane UV rays that are then shortened and then hit your animals. Those shortened UV rays are more damaging, right? Those reflective shortened UV rays are more damaging to your animals. You're keeping them in this hot environment with this galvanized. You are basically tethering them without having a rope around their neck. Yes, it's exactly, it would be like an oven. It would literally be like an oven. And you are on top of that putting them in a coop. So they can't go anywhere. Can you imagine if you were to put yourself in that scenario? Right? That's terrible, guys. So we have to alleviate that problem, right? You would see behavioral changes from your animals. They would spend less time feeding. They would have more time drinking. They would want to drink more. They would be heavier panting. There will be less movement. And their wings will be elevated. And I'm sure you all would have seen these things, but you would not, at no fault of your own, you would not have been able to recognize what those things meant. Okay? So if you pay attention to your animals, they're not eating as much. They're not drinking as much. Oh, sorry. They want more water. They're panting. They move less. And their wings are elevated. Those are great signs. Well, not good signs. They're never good signs, but they're great signs to you that, hey, I need to make changes. I need to make changes. I'm doing more harm to my animals than good. And of course, if you have gotten to the point, and I'm going to say it flat, I'm going to say it real clear. If you've gotten to the point where you have your animals in a coop like this, and they are showing these signs, it also means, guys, that you have not been giving them enough water. That's what that means too, because it goes hand in hand. If you can put your animals in a situation like this, and then you can recognize that they need all these things. The second point, where more time drinking. The more time drinking can only happen if they have water to drink. But I can put my head on a block for it and say that you also have not been giving them the right amount of water because you already have them in the situation. So those things you need to pay attention to. All right. If you look to the right of the picture, you will see corticotrophin releasing factor. You will see adrenocorticotropic hormone. You will see plasma corticosterone. You will see gonadotrophin releasing hormone. Right? What are those things? Those things help regulate your animal. How their liver works, how their kidney works, how much energy output they have, how their feathers grow. And if you don't provide them with the right aspects, whether they are physical or in terms of cleanliness or in terms of just practical stuff, guys, in terms of this ridiculous coop that we just saw there, this coop here. If you do not do those things, you see all of those little hormones on the right hand side there that I just called out there, you're going to either increase them or you're going to decrease them when they're really supposed to be at a particular level. And if you do that, think about your own body. When you are a child, you have hormones before you hit puberty. You have different hormones, right? You have growth hormones, you have luteinizing hormones, and if your parents don't feed you and house you properly, those hormones don't hit optimal level. They don't. Great examples of those would be in countries where you see malnutrition. I'm sure you all would have seen malnutrition in certain countries across the globe. Somalia, Yemen, right? Children are literally skin and bones. They lack the protein. They have kwashiorkor, right? They're just suffering. It's the same thing you're doing to your animals. If you put them in a situation like, we're not even talking about the food there, no. We are talking about the environment. The environment alone could put your animals under so much stress that it could kill them. And then you thinking, but I feeding the animal all the time. I giving the animal water all the time. Look, I even vaccinate the animal, right? I put all the thing in the water and ting. The animals still dropping them, and then still not giving me food. What are you doing here? What are you going on? Those are the questions you ask yourself. We are Trinidadians, and I'm talking like a Trinidadian to you because you need to understand what the questions are that you will be asking yourself. And I'm sure you've asked yourself these questions. I'm sure of it. Right? But it's because you could not identify the issues on the farm, the environmental issues that were on the farm. This is why it is so important. Let's go to the physiological changes. You will see stress. We have a big word there, oxidative stress. We'll touch on that in a second. You will see acid-base imbalances. You will see respiratory alkalosis. You will see increase in the H and L ratio, which is the hormonal ratio. You'll see changes in microbial profile. Now, let's break it down quickly. Oxidative stress is basic stress, but stress. Okay, I see somebody bringing a question in. I'll touch on that in a second, or at the end, right? Oxidative stress. Oxidative stress is essentially how the animal is going to respond directly to the environment and its whole system, whether it includes respiratory, its actual skin, how it brings elements from outside inward. Acid-base imbalances can be touched with your neuroendocrine changes. Actually, they go hand in hand. Okay, so your acid-base imbalances would be internally. Respiratory alkalosis, again, it is how the animal is really going to metabolize everything that it actually ingests and uses within itself. Your ratios for your hormones, again, those are endocrine changes as well, as we mentioned in the top right hand side for the hormones. But these are, guys, keep something take something in consideration, sorry. All the physiological changes that you are seeing there, physiological, you can't see them. They're not physical. Physiological and not physical. Physical changes on the outside of the animal, which is basically when we touched on um, this slide with the bacteria and you saw the physical changes there. Physiological changes are what happen on the inside of the animal that then are expressed on the outside. That's the difference. Take that into consideration. Physiological changes are changes that happen on the inside of your animal that are then expressed on the outside. So, for example, let me just give you a human example of a physiological change. Right, okay. Kwashiorkor, or even, okay, how some of you all, when you were in school, you would have learned about scurvy. Scurvy were the days of marine time when they used to sail ships. And not many people would get vitamin C. Vitamin C you get from your oranges, your Portugals, your ascorbic acid. If you don't have enough vitamin C in your system, you get something called scurvy. But that is because you are a form of malnutrition of the vitamin C. Now, the ascorbic acid, what many of you all don't realize, is actually needed in different aspects internally, right? So you have those physiological changes if you don't have the ascorbic acid. But what ends up happening is, because you have that shortage of ascorbic acid, which is vitamin C, it then shows up on your skin. And you get bumps and tears and bleeding and all sorts of stuff. And that could also kill you. So the physiological aspect of being short, which made changes internally, showed up on the skin. Similarly with kwashiorkor, which is protein malnutrition. When you have protein malnutrition, your whole system breaks down internally. But on the outside, what you see is your liver swelling. So you look like a little child, meaning a child who is maybe 5-year-old, looks like they have a belly like a pregnant person. They have a form of edema, right? So it swells. That is the liver swelling. So again, guys, I just wanted to bring to you an example in human form as to how the physiological changes in the animal now will then start to express themselves, in which case you would see things like the production changes, which we will talk about now, which are the mortality, the feed intake, the poor feed conversion ratio, right? The reduced body weight and the decreased quality of meat. But also, if you have the physiological changes, what you're going to have again are these points that we mentioned earlier, which is, where is it here? The gut disease, the malabsorptions, all of those things again are going to be part and parcel of the physiological change that express themselves physically. All right, so I hope, and of course, the sick bird, recognizing sick bird, right? Meaning the combs, the wattles, the legs, the heads, all of them being swollen, physical changes, nasal discharge, sneezing, coughing, again, physical changes, right? That would be expressed by the physiological changes. All right, guys? So I want you all to really pay attention to those things. And I just start encouraging anybody from having a farm. But you can see there are a lot of things that you need to pay attention to, okay? So we just touched on a very, very important slide that had absolutely nothing to do with the food, with the vaccinations, with the application of disinfection, none of those things, with application of biomedical disinfectant, sorry. This slide had absolutely nothing to do with those mentioned before. With the water treatment, nothing. And still see how important y'all doing this is to the animal. It might be the worst thing you could do to the animal, to be really honest, right? Literally could probably be the worst thing that you could do to the animal. And I want to exaggerate the point. Because you know why? It needs to be exaggerated. When you are in your house, you don't live, well, at least we don't try to live directly under a galvanized. We try to put a ceiling. A ceiling gives you that little vacuum space. It's a buffer to prevent those short UV rays from hitting you and creating a sauna in your house. We even go as far as to aerate our ceilings, because if we don't, it becomes an oven, because now heat is trapped. Same for the animals, guys. Same for the animals. To see how important that is, okay? So, moving on to the next slide. Solutions to alleviate the stress in the livestock. Again, I'm going to try to reach out to Mr. Sanchez. Mr. Sanchez, are you there, sir? No, we can't hear you. All right. All right. I'm going to take another water break there, guys, okay? Please. Okay, great. All right, we're 100 again. So solutions to alleviate stress in livestock. So on a happier note, because I know I was real grilling you all, on a happier note, when feeding a good quality ration, adding natural probiotics to the diet and reducing the stress in the flock will keep them more resistant to bacteria that make the chicken sick. Simple, wearing shoe gloves, different types, different shoes, or using shoe baths when visiting anyone with a flock of poultry or even within your own farm. Do not wear, and I really want to reiterate this, do not wear the same shoes that you're going to wear in public in your farm. Please, 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 please. Also, do not just carry bare hands into your farms for your poultry and as well for your home, because you don't want to take stuff from your farm into your home as well, right? I mean, we stressing on the animal right now, but your wife, your husband, your children, the people in your house also have to remain healthy, all right? So keep a strict quarantine for 30 days at least for any new chickens being added to the flock. Again, guys, it is an investment. It really, really is. You're going to have to create an area separate for isolation and quarantine, okay? And that is not just, as we mentioned earlier, that is not just about bringing the animal into new animals into your area, but animals who are also sick. You have to have that readily available, okay? Must have it readily available. Utilizing a good cleaning and disinfection routine. Again, they are two very different things. Cleaning is different from disinfection. And I don't think I mentioned earlier what the difference is. So let me just touch on that very quickly. Cleaning is defined. All right, awesome. We'll talk about those probiotics, okay, for sure. Cleaning is defined as the physical removal of really any aspect of vector, dirt, right, or fecal matter in the area. It is the physical removal of that. And that, I mean, is very wide as well. It could be, like I said, the fecal matter, dirt, soil, right, grease, forms of oil, feathers, in the poultry case, it would be feathers. All of those things would be cleaning. You typically use, of course, a method to physically remove. I would say steel brush brooms are excellent for those, or hard brush brooms. You must use water, very, very importantly. Now, that is cleaning. Disinfection is completely different. You must have a biomedical disinfectant. Must. Guys, I need you all to understand, bleach is not one of those. That is necessary for you to understand. Bleach is technically more harmful to you, the animal, and the farm, and the environment than anything else. Trinidadians typically use bleach because that's all we have known. That's all we have known. But it causes more harm. More harm. All right. So why we say agrobiomedical? Why do we say agrobiomedical disinfectant? Because agrobiomedical disinfectants are tested in agriculture and in animal husbandry. They are internationally certified to remove the bacteria, the algae, the fungus, the mold, and the viruses while being non-toxic, biodegradable, non-toxic and biodegradable, non-corrosive, and non-abrasive. So it's completely safe. Whereas things like bleach and other forms of disinfectants, they're not tested like that. And so they cause more harm, right, to your animals than a biomedical and agrobiomedical disinfectant, right, which is the product which we will get to late much in the end, or that we manufacture and that we have done our international testing for over a 14-year period, guys. 14-year period, okay? So yes, let's get back into it. So cleaning and disinfection routines are two very different things. And of course, disinfection routines require the biosecurity protocols, which we will put in place for you when we visit your sites, okay? So making sure the coop is well ventilated and fresh smelling. Again, guys, I'm gonna kind of grill you all again there, okay? Coop is well ventilated and fresh smelling. Removing and quarantining any chickens, as we mentioned before, who will appear ill, and providing a safe place from predators. So there's a point I want to touch on with respect to predators. Your animals, you may notice this or you may not have noticed. If you have dogs in the environment of the farm, particularly with chickens, a dog is actually a natural predator to a chicken. For those of you all who did not know this. Now you would keep your dogs on your farm to protect from predator larceny. I understand that. But what I need you to do is not have them in direct contact with the fence of the chickens. Why? Because the chickens are prey to the predator, which is, and cats as well. So the chickens will feel prey to the actual predator, which will be the dog. Even though the dog cannot reach into the coop, the chicken becomes stressed out. When the chickens become stressed, we talked about that earlier, you're going to have less output, less eating, less everything, right? And you're going to lose big time. So you want to keep a buffer area between your chicken, and I don't mean a fence, guys. I don't mean a fence. I mean, I literally, if you have a fence, right? Let me see if I could show you something here. One second. If you have a fence. Your chickens on this side of your fence, right? Your chickens are on this side of the fence. Create a system whereby you have a buffer area of about a few feet, maybe 3 to 5 feet, where you put another fence, right? You put another fence. Sorry about that. Let's try to adjust my stuff here. You put another fence 3 to 5 feet away from the fence of the coop. That will give your animals in your coop a safety net, a safety zone, a safety buffer. It's psychological, guys. They do have brains as well. So you want them to be comfortable. You want them to be comfortable, all right? So that is your providing a safe place from your predator point. Summary of key considerations. Okay, I'm going to take another little water break. Right. So summary of key considerations. So factors in cleaning the process, key chemical agents to use in the shelter, sanitation and pest control, and cleaning and disinfecting processes. So those are the three major points that we're going to touch on there. And I like the little picture here. This picture here, I think it makes a lot of sense in terms of what we're going to discuss. So if you just look at the picture very quickly, you'll get an idea of what we're gonna talk about here. Okay, so the first point is the factors in the cleaning process. The factors in the cleaning process, very, very importantly. And the guys, this is the I want you to take note of how we try to list these for you to make them relevant, simple, and applicable. All right, simple. Remove your grease and your oils first thing, which are present on the surfaces from organic matter like feathers, feces, dirt, and dust. Well, look at that. I mentioned that earlier, and we have jumped the gun. The water used for cleaning must also be clean itself. The water itself must be clean. Reusing water that was already used, example, with a dirty mop, can reduce the effectiveness of what is being used to clean. Additionally, not just a dirty mop, but if we are using water that has not been treated properly, we're going to run into a lot of problems, as we mentioned earlier. And of course, although, and this is a key point, guys, very often steam is considered to be a good applicant in terms of cleaning mechanism. However, in closed areas particularly, steam is going to increase the humidity of your area. It is going to significantly increase the humidity of your area, and once you do that, you can then proliferate all of those pathogens, including the bacteria and the fungus and mold. Right? The bacteria, the fungus, and the mold are going to proliferate significantly once you use steam in enclosed areas. Even in open areas, because why? There are edges, there are corners where you would have the humidity, the condensation taking place, because you're going to have a hot and cold scenario very, very quickly with the steam, right? All of these things need to be paid attention to. So you want to actually stay away from the steam cleaning, okay? Of course, very importantly, what you should note and what you should do is have power washers. I think power washers are excellent in farms. Why? Easily you can move your animals across. You have your power washers, and power washers help you to remove or dislodge all of those physical particulates on your surfaces, right? Wash them away without having to do a large amount of physical work, meaning carrying the brooms and so forth, because the power washer is going to knock it off, all right? Then you can move into the disinfection aspects, okay? All right. If we're lucky, we might get Mr. Sanchez coming back in soon. Guys, I really wanted him to talk to you all too, because he is very much in farms regularly, like every day. So he would have given you a great perspective. What I will try to do, if he cannot give you a talk today, is I'm going to try to have him do a recording, and we will try to send that out to you, okay? But because he would have explained a lot of the slides also today. Now I hope I'm doing my best, and he's giving me little points on the side saying I am, but he's really, I mean, quality for a lot of these slides, and you really would have enjoyed them as well. But if anything, I will try to but he will definitely, we're going to try to have him for the site visits. Hopefully we have all of you all who come on board for the site visits, and he will really be able to help you there, okay? So let's just move on to the other slide.